If you're looking to get smarter, the easiest way to do that is literally to read, because in a book you get ideas, someone who is probably educated in that space they're writing on. Sometimes their life's work or their ideas that they've accumulated through their lifetime, and you get it condensed down in a 300-page book that you can read, well, maybe not in one sitting, but in a week, in a month, however long it takes you, even if it takes you a year. Imagine if all the experience you have from your job, your work, you are able to impart it on someone in such a short period of time. Even if it is 1 year, it's probably taken you, depending on how old you are and how long you've been working, so much longer to get that experience. Now, I understand if you're not a reader, which I'm not as well. I read, but I wouldn't identify myself as someone who's an avid reader who reads maybe 50 books a year, who looks forward to reading, but I do like the kind of person it makes me. But sometimes I can struggle to find things to read, especially now that I'm on this journey trying to get smarter, which I know sounds a bit silly, but it's just this realization that consuming short form content and relying on algorithms every day has made my brain work in a way that I don't like, passive, inactive, and every day waiting for these algorithms to feed me content. And while I will never stop consuming content, short form, long form, I also want to make space in my brain for ideas that are a bit more thought out, that are a bit more developed, that don't depend on hooks, that don't depend on triggering me to get me to engage with them. And I feel like books do fill the questions. The challenge can sometimes be finding things to read, especially if you are on a similar journey like I am, where you don't just want to read for the sake of reading, but want to read things that are actually going to improve your life. So I thought in this video I would show you the books I read in Q1 as someone who reads a wide variety of books. But more importantly, I want to show you how I chose these books, and why, even though they're seemingly very different from each other and they're not self-help, teach me this, teach me that books, how they've changed my life. By watching this video, I hope you can get away from this and apply the same concepts in your life if you've been struggling with what to read, because at the end of the day, if you try to read things that you're not interested in, you will likely not finish the books or think reading sucks. But trust me, I think everyone has something they are actually interested in, and therefore should be able to find reading that thing in not entertaining maybe, but fulfilling. Let's call it fulfilling. So let's get started with the books. I'm gonna do the books starting with the one I like the least to the one I like the most. My least favorite book, but this doesn't mean it's a bad book, by the way. It just means that it just maybe did not find me at the right time, which I'll explain as we walk through this. So the book is called The Artist's Way, which I think many of you have heard of. It's really popular. I think it picked up in popularity again when Dochi went super viral, and she said that she did the exercises in the books and they helped her with her career. Now, I don't want to discount the value of this book. Oh, just to let you know, for those of you who don't know, so it's a book that is meant to unlock your creative block. So if you're stuck in a rut, whether you're a writer, a musician, and you feel like you're stuck, you just don't have any new ideas, the book is intended to help you get through that. Now, why I mentioned before that the book found me at a wrong time, this was the book specifically that I was referring to. This book, as if you look at Dochi's YouTube, before she started this book, you realize that she had been making art, and if you look at my YouTube channel, you realize I have maybe 10 videos, I don't know, whatever it is, many of which don't count because I was just doing it as a hobby then. And that's why this book comes down, not because it's a bad book, but this book is for someone who has been creating and is now no longer creating. I personally do not think this book is for someone who has not created before and is just deciding to start creating, and then they're like, I'm in a creative block. It's like saying a road is blocked, but there is no road, like no path was paved before. So I went into this book thinking, oh yeah, it's going to unlock some creativity in me. Creativity in what? I've worked on multiple things, don't get me wrong, but there was nothing that I was on the journey of that this book was going to help me remove the bumps in the road on the journey I was taking. So I think for many people, they are getting this book hoping that it's going to help them find their creative selves. But no, I think this book is for someone who has found their creative field and found a project to work on, but they're currently stuck and need new ideas on that specific project, which is why I think this book did not find me at the right time, as I was still figuring out what path I want to follow creatively. But of course, now that you're watching this channel, you know that I do have this channel, and while that could be considered something creative that I'm doing that I could need ideas for, I don't think I struggle with ideas. Actually on them and pushing them through to completion is what I struggle with. So I don't think I need this book. I have the ideas. My list of video ideas is so long. I literally have 2 years of ideas. I don't know if they are good ideas, but they are ideas nonetheless. So I'm not struggling with that. I think there was a little bit of me and other people as well that hopes that this book is going to help make the process of doing the work easier. But I found out the hard way that it's not. You read the book, you do the morning pages, but after you finish the morning pages, you realize, oh, I didn't mention you have the book has an exercise where you do morning pages, I think for 12 weeks. You have write something down every day. It's quite demanding and exhausting, but I imagine it would be really good if you were working on a project and just feel like, oh no, I need new ideas. It would help you just remove those barriers, those standards you set for yourself, and help you push through. So I thought, once you've done those morning pages, you realize that now that the pages are done, you have to set up the phone and record. And that's when I realized that I was doing this book, paralysis analysis. I'll put the definition here, but it's basically where you get stuck in a research phase and just never get anything off the ground. And that is what I was doing. By reading this book, I thought I would either make it easier or remove the problem that I actually have to get up and do the work, which is not the case. I do not think you should get this book if you do not have something you're working on already and need the creativity to be blocked. I have seen a book Preta recommended here, which I'm going to consider, How to Live an Artful Life, something like that, and I'm going to give that a go, as it might be something more for people who are just still trying to find their creativity. I'm not stopping you from getting the book, I'm just saying what happened for me. The next book is Taste by Stanley Tucci. I have since removed the tag, but I got this at the charity shop. So at the charity shop, now obviously you might wonder, if you get at the charity shop, then clearly you did not think much about it before. But I should mention that I do love to cook, and I've been in a rut with recipes. And of course, you might think that there are tons and tons of recipes online, and I get that. But I think I'm at the point where it's not just getting recipes in my culinary journey, my cooking journey. I think I'm at the point where I want to try recipes with context. For example, if someone gave me their, I don't know, grandma's recipe, their mother's recipe, are people even still doing that, like having a special grandma's recipe? But I digress. So because I loved Stanley Tucci in that movie Conclave, I just thought he's an Italian guy, his parents were Italian immigrants, or was it his grandparents? And I'm sure they have a very interesting food story. So I thought this was going to be a book about food, a little bit of Stanley Tucci's story in there. But this book is mostly Stanley Tucci with a little bit of food sprinkled in there. So I haven't watched his show, which I should, by the way, and I'll watch an episode before I upload this to see if I would recommend it. But this maybe left with a chapter in this book, and I can tell you I've seen a few recipes that I'm going to try, but they're also not special recipes, I'm sorry to say. Like, I think it's a cacio e pepe, because I've been wanting to try cacio e pepe anyway, because I had a really good cacio e pepe when I was in Italy, but I wouldn't say that came from this book. I'm going to try his recipe anyway. So I was hoping for him to have done maybe a book that explores the combination of Italian cooking in an American context. I was expecting him maybe to talk about where he finds the best cheeses, where to find the best pasta, how to identify good pasta. So that's the story I was hoping for, because obviously I'm an immigrant myself. Like, I just moved to the UK 4 years ago. I had to go through the journey of learning how to shop for food so that my diet does not drastically change, especially as someone who cares about food so much. So maybe I'm wrong for having put my expectations on the book, but sometimes you do that and then something shocks you and it's actually better or different from what you expected. And I'm sorry, this book did not do that. I think Stanley Tucci is a wonderful actor, very talented, and unfortunately sometimes being a great person who is talented, who's built their career on just their talent, usually means you don't have a very scandalous life that is very intriguing. So I'm not exactly sure if I want to read 10 pages on how Stanley Tucci prepares for Christmas morning. That's what I mean. I'm going to watch his show about food. So I expected a bit more food in this book. For that reason, I would not say I would recommend this book to someone. I'm left with a chapter just because it was a bit hard to get through. But if you found it, why not? But I really don't know. I'm not sure that what the goal of the book was, but for me, even as someone who loves Stanley Tucci, I can't possibly imagine reading this if you're not intrigued by his career. Like, he has one of the best filmographies ever in Hollywood, and he's also just mostly, obviously I don't know much about him, he's a relatively harmless guy, and yeah, I wanted more from this. Like, I wanted a book about food. Unfortunately, not suddenly twitching. Sorry. And next we have this classic, Atomic Habits. So there's been a lot of demonization of nonfiction on the internet, and I would say Atomic Habits has been one of the books people took down on. But I've always wanted to read the book because I agree with so many of the sentiments in the book. There's so many things I apply in my life, some of which I knew came from Atomic Habits, but I had from other creators like Productivity Bros like Ali Abdal. But there are also some things that I applied in my life that are in the book that were just coincidence. Maybe this is why they say it doesn't matter about your thoughts, it matters who puts it into action, because I had the thoughts, but he's the one who made the millions of dollars on the ideas. Yeah. So the challenge with this book is that it's one of those books that literally could have been an essay, which I did a video essay on, and also a written essay. I'm afraid to say that's something that almost all nonfiction books suffer from, unless they are really unique and they're exploring new idea that you're so intrigued and you need to learn every little last detail. But I feel like everyone knows what they are supposed to do. They're just struggling with how to do that thing. And many of these chapters could be summarized into one page. Now, does that mean that people should not write books about these things? I don't think so. But at the end of the day, when you buy a book, you spend time, valuable time reading it. And ideally, you want every page and every second of that reading process to count. Yes, it is still a great book, and the reason I would recommend it is because it's such an easy read. I could have read this in one sitting, I just chose not to. So if you can land yourself a copy for like £2 or in a charity shop or secondhand on Vinted, go ahead, but I wouldn't pay more than £5 or $5 for this. Also, there are so many videos people have made on this book, countless videos on YouTube, and many of them capture the message very well, hence the point that it could have been an essay or a much shorter book. But the book is really easy to read, the letters are huge, and there are pictures in there, so quite easy to read. Wouldn't recommend getting new. If you don't want to read or don't dislike nonfiction, watching 3 YouTube videos and reading a summarized version of it is more than enough. The ideas are great, especially if you're at the start of your journey in regards to discipline and productivity. But if you're 70% content with how you live your life and live your routines, I would not say that you would learn anything groundbreaking in here that you wouldn't get in a nice, lovely summary here on YouTube. The next book I'm gonna talk about is this book, Palaces for the People, which, if you're not of school age anymore, I'm sure you know how hard it is to make friends. And for many people, they will tell you to do things like network, I don't know, go out, meet people, etc. I know all that is networking, but you get my point. Which makes it seem like it is an individual problem. But this book explores why it is not actually. It is not a failing. It is not you failing to make friends if you don't have friends past school age. It is a societal problem. Now, this is something that interests me because I've always wondered what I would like to do. Things that I love benefit the community, and I didn't want to go back into typical health stuff like heavy sciencey stuff, lab stuff. But this is something that intrigued me. After I moved, and I've spoken to also multiple people that have moved countries, the loneliness can drive you a bit mad. Now, I've got family here, so it was not that bad, but there is also a loneliness that is not just physical, that is intellectual. If you hang around 10-year-olds all day, you're not alone, but you need someone who can intellectually stimulate you, and that does not mean a smart person, but also it just means someone who maybe has shared interests, shared dreams, shared passions, so you can exchange ideas that are impactful for both of you. So when I got to that point where I'm like, okay, I need to talk to people who are maybe in similar situations, who are similar to me, I was like, how would you do that? And I realized there were not that many resources that would help you navigate something like that, except for networking events, which I've done maybe 2 or 3, and my god, I really hate those because everyone is just, I don't want to talk ill, but it makes most people uncomfortable. That the energy is very weird, and because most of them are very career oriented, everyone is there to identify what the other person can do for them, which is a bit parasitic. And in many cases, you go into these networking rooms and you realize, what's the saying? It's the blind leading the blind. Basically, there is no one there who can help the other because everyone is there to be helped. Think about it. If you were the one in a position to help people, why would you then go to a networking event, especially if you have to pay for it? It didn't make sense. So then I started to research the topic and then asked ChatGPT to recommend some books on the topic. So it recommended this book, Now, there are much more complex issues discussed in this book, which is what was worrying me, because as you might have heard, Gen Z is the loneliest generation ever, as we're spending less and less time with people, and many people are moving away from where they grew up from to start lives in different countries, different cities, which makes the problem that much worse. I think there are going to be very dangerous implications for this way of life where you don't have a neat community, and this book goes into that. But to keep this video simple, is that there is something called the third space. You might have heard about it because it's been trending for the past maybe 2-ish years in the Substack intellectual content creator space, if you like video essays. That is the idea that you need a third space other than where you live. You need a space outside where you work and live to exist, basically to hang out. And that was usually things like coffee shops, libraries, community centers, many of which have been defunded by governments. And because we spend so much time on our phones, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic, no one is going to those places anymore. So this way people are not making friends. What I took away from this book was that what I wanted to get from this book was, what can I do on an individual level before I have the opportunity or the power to make these changes on a community level, if I ever do. But it taught me what I believed already, actually, that to make friends, these events that are being advertised everywhere on TikTok, on Instagram, are not going to help you make friends. How many events have you been to, and how many of those people are you still in touch with? So it proved to me, I started playing tennis last year, and through that I've met so many amazing people that I still see quite often, maybe once a month. But it proved my theory that I need to get a bit more serious and intentional with what events, what places I go to meet people, because there needs to be repeated exposure to each other to see if you like each other, if you can tolerate each other under different circumstances, for you to build a meaningful relationship. The next book is a fiction book. Yeah, it's called Strange Pictures, and I did this with a book club with my workmates. So obviously, how I discovered this, one of my workmates recommended it for the book club, and I just wanted a fiction book to read. So that is why, I don't want to say I found it, but like I floated the idea that we should do a book club or something like that. If you are looking for ideas on things to read, things to like, different ideas on how you can spend your time, why not start a club that can give you some level of accountability, so you're not alone trying to figure these things out. Most people are suffering from the same challenges of trying to find community and trying to find like-minded community, not just any community anyhow. So why not do that? Unfortunately, there is literally nothing I can say about what happens in this book without spoiling it, because everything is tied together at the end. But all you need to know is that mystery book, people are murdered, and there is people trying to solve that. And that's all I can say without giving away anything in the book, literally. Even if I revealed what the premise is, because I know what happens, there is no way for me to tell you what that is without spoiling it. But maybe I'll tell you how the book opens. So this guy finds this blog and it has pictures on it. Maybe I'll put some of the pictures on the screen. And then one of the sentences, the last sentence in the entry on the blog is, I found out why you did what you did, and I'll stop updating this blog. So with his friend, tried to figure out what the pictures meant. And yeah, really good. Can read this in one sitting. Highly recommend. Actually think it's too short for what it tells. I feel like it could have been longer because it's really intriguing, but regardless, maybe 4.5 out of 5 stars, just because it was not long enough. The next book I'm going to talk about is Crime and Punishment. Now I'll be doing a whole video on this book, so I'm not going to say too much about it. But how I came to read this is, I have a list of classics that I want to read this year, so I just pulled from that classic. Again, if you're struggling to find books to read, I find that reading classics, not for the sake of saying, oh, I've read that, but it's more about, you can create FOMO. Oh no, if you're relatively normal, which I think most of us are, when people discuss a topic, there is that natural FOMO you get. So if someone maybe references the main character in this book, Raskolnikov, I almost like, what are they talking about? So I was like, there are always these books that I see referenced in other books by content creators. There are some books that explore very complex topics about being a human being, being in love, heartbreak, sometimes losing someone, death, fearing death. And I'm always thinking, oh, if I'd read that book, then I would understand what they are talking about. So I just made a list of 12 classics that I would read this year, and this was at the top of the list. This book is so long. Please, if you're finding an edition to read, look for one that is short. This is almost 500 pages, and the letters are. Keep in mind, it is not a mystery, so it's not like you're waiting for a resolution at the end. The main character is terrible and very unlikable. Now, this doesn't mean that it's a bad book. This edition is just way too long, and also it's been relevant for like 200 years. So a book does not stay on top of people's minds for that long if it's a mediocre book. It is a really good book. I think most people, when they read this, the message they get is that it's about how much you suffer after you've done something wrong, which is not bad. But for me, what the lesson I took from this was how thinking you're better than or thinking you're above certain things can lead you to make certain decisions that you will not agree with. And even when you're not caught, you will not be able to live with those decisions. I think that's a really important element to explore if you're still trying to figure your life out, trying to see what you want to do with your life. And in many cases, you get so many temptations along the way to try things maybe you haven't done. Literally, I don't know why the first thing that's coming to my mind is getting sugar. Don't do that, please. But I think that is not a good parallel, especially with the economy we're in and the kind of content that is trending about dating. Yeah, as young people, I don't know if I'm young anymore, people who are still figuring their lives out, you feel certain pressures. You feel sometimes temptations to lie, sometimes temptations to cheat, temptations to exaggerate. And this book, I feel like, shows you that you should not compromise your morals, your values, just because you feel like in that specific situation it's okay. Like, I'll just do it this one time, then I'll not do it again. This shows where that can lead, even if you don't get caught, because the character does not get caught in this. But it's almost like the punishment he goes through from not being caught is so much worse than being caught. Highly recommend, just a much shorter edition. Finally, we have gotten to the book I loved the most from Q1, which is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Now, this is a bro book, I'm not gonna lie, but many of the bros, I think many of the productivity entrepreneur bros completely misunderstand this book because they just take it to fit their narratives. So Stoicism basically is the branch, school of thought that basically tries to get you to care a bit less in general, just about everything, about people's opinions, about life, about pain, about just things that might make you not feel great when they can be ignored. Now, I'm not entirely for Stoicism in the way it's preached on the internet, but this book is amazing, showing you why you should be Stoic, not just telling you should be Stoic. I will make a book about this, a video about this as well. It's coming next week or the week after that, and it will dive into deeper what I think about the book. But I have read this book 3 times in the last maybe 4 months. It is that good, and I'll read it over and over again until I die. The most important thing for me that I got from this book was acceptance. There are certain things that I look at, maybe I experience, particularly health related, and it used to drive me mad, so angry. Like, why does it work that way? And this book has so many passages that show you that those things are part of life. It is not a failure. It is not something breaking. It is a part of life. The example I can give is, now that I'm getting a bit older, like I can feel a better example would be periods. I used to hate my period because it's just so fucking painful. I had already started thinking about it, but this book drove it home for me. One time I would like to be a mother. I don't know if I will. It'll be nice. And the period is the one that enables that to happen. It's the one that enables you to have 12 to 13 to 14, depending on your cycle, chances every year to do that. And it's the one that enables you to say, you know what, not this time, because next month I'll have another chance. The month after that I'll have another chance. Without the period, that would not be possible. Could it be less painful? Probably. Also, it is part of life, it is part of nature, and when it's convenient for you, you don't mind it. But when it's not convenient, then all of a sudden it's the worst thing in the world. It also touches on death, and depending on your journey with that, your relationship with that, depending on the people you lost, it might help you, it might not. So I'll not speak too much on that, as I just feel it's a bit sensitive. But what a book, guys. What a book. There is a passage in here that talks about how you should feel in the morning when you wake up. So sometimes when you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh God, I don't want to do anything, I'll put a screenshot here, a picture here, and it says the birds are already up singing, the sun is up giving it sunlight, the animals, they're doing whatever, the leaves, the flowers. and you're just there lying around, and it says, you say you're passionate about, the dreams you have. Where is the passion? Like, show me the passion. Okay, this book is 2,000 years old, and it just knew that I was going to be lazy on a given Thursday and not be getting up to follow the dreams that I want to follow. I love that passage so, so much, and I highly recommend, even if you don't read the book, it's book five, the past passage. I think it's quite famous, so you should be able to find it on Google, or you can read it from the video when I put it up here. Such a great passage. Anyway, so as you can see, I think this video has been a great insight into how I find things to read, and I feel like all of these are applicable to anyone. Book club, if you cannot find people to have a book club with, do it with your workmates, like I did. Go online and join a virtual book club. I just joined Dua Lipa's book club. I don't think it's for me, but I'll do a video after I've been in there for 3 months. What else? Classics again. Book club. Thrift shop, because it's in a niche, like a hobby that I enjoy. Even though I didn't like it, I still not a waste of time. Reading is never a waste of time. Who knows, that country paper recipe might change my life. This one, recommendations from online, and this one, oh, classic, not in the classic sense, but just an idea that I had, and I thought I would explore a book about it, similar to this idea that was in my mind, and I thought reading a book about it would give me information. And all these books have changed my life in different ways, as I read, and all of these I am practicing religiously, all the teachings that I got from these books. Anyway, next week my videos will be on crime and punishment, talking more about it, and Jesse's meditations. So if you like those, subscribe and turn on your notifications to know when I post them. I just did a video on going to a tennis event. If you're into that kind of thing, if you're trying to just live more like I am through art, through going out into the world, you might like this channel if you find that helpful. As always, I have a Substack article with all the books, all the resources linked. I think since I've talked about these books, I'll just link the whole list, and then have it summarizing how I discovered the book, how it changed my life, just so you can see how you can approach reading if you're not an avid reader. Yeah, again, like, subscribe. Bye.